Okay, welcome back everybody to another edition of SPFBO9 author live chat panels. That's affectionately SPFBO for the self-published fantasy blog off. I finally said it without tripping over my words. Here we are, over 10 panels in. I feel so happy. But I'm here today with WD and JE and Chris and Laura, and we're going to be chatting about SPFBO and our books. And so if you've been following the series, welcome back. If you're new, this competition is where 300 authors put a book in to be read and reviewed and considered to be a finalist in Mark Lawrence's SPFBO competition. There are 10 blogs, 300 books, so that's 30 books a blog. And everybody that you see on the panel except me is on one of those different blogs. I think I almost said everybody's on Bookborn, but that's a different panel for another day. Sorry, I'm tired. So we're going to go around. WD, you want to kick us off? Just tell us a little about what blog you're in, who you are, what your book is, and what kind of fantasy it is.
Absolutely. So my name is Willow. This is my first time entering the SPFBO. And I'm a bit sick right now, so I apologize for my voice. But I was originally in, I think, the Before We Go blog, but then I noticed a couple days ago I got moved over to the Weatherwax report. I have a young adult epic fantasy adventure book. This is it right here. It's called The Beauty of Dawn. It's about a mistrustful thief who has to go on this adventure to return the sunlight. And my mom actually made the cover, and I did the typography, and I did all of the interior, and I also did the map. I'm just going to show you guys because I really like it.
That's awesome. I love the
That's
map.
brilliant.
Thank you. So yeah, that's all about my book.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. I heard that sometimes they move blogs because someone has either read your book already or knows you somehow or something.
Yeah, I don't know if I know anybody in there. I don't know what happened, but I'm still in there. That's all that matters, right?
Or it could be that whoever's blog you traded to knew somebody and your book happened to be the one that got exchanged.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it's a no stress, right? Right here as we're launching. The contest officially started on the 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, so exciting. JE, Jill, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is J.E. Prazzi, or Jill. I am the author of The Legend of Tahiri, which is in SPFBO this year, as well as, a number of other books under J.E. Prazzi, as well as under my pen name, J.H. Moore. So yeah, I'm very happy to be joining. I'm part of the fantasy faction, so we'll see how that goes. I was under them as well for SPSFC, the science fiction version of this. So I'm very interested to see if they like my work a little bit better. The Legend of Tahiri is just a very simple, cozy fantasy inspired by Polynesian and South Pacific Islands where I grew up. So I'm really excited. It just came out recently and reviews are starting to come in, and I'm really excited to see how well it's being received.
Awesome. So you did the sci-fi one like last year or prior year?
I entered it the first year with my book Malfunction. And I was in the same fantasy faction for that one as well. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have a little experience. Who else? Is this anybody else's first time besides mine? All right. So all of us are first timers except Jill. Jill, you can tell us all
It's
about
a very different thing. I was quite surprised and very pleasantly surprised. It's quite a different thing, but I'm loving the experience.
Awesome. Welcome to the fantasy family.
Thank you.
Chris, welcome. I'm so excited to meet you.
Thanks so much, Katherine. I don't know how strong it comes across that I'm Australian. Probably the accent may be coming on pretty strong, I'm assuming. It's midnight where we are. So I forgot to get a copy of my book with me, but I'll have that later. My book is called Heretic. I actually have one. It's going to be 1 second. This is bad PR, isn't it? But it's right here. I've got it. Here, I don't know if this is going to show up that well, but there we go. There's Heretic, right? It's all blurry, but that's it. So it's basically part one of a series called Helios Rising, dark fantasy. It sort of leans towards young adult, but yeah, it's a little bit doesn't fit specifically in any particular genre. Like there's sci-fi elements. It's definitely dark fantasy in there, other fantasy. Urban, dystopian. So it sort of goes all over the place. But it's my first time in SPFBO. I had someone reach out to me last year who had read the book and sent me an email and said, look, you should enter in this competition. And they sent it to me, and God love them, they it was in time, but I thought I had all the time in the world to apply for this competition, and I jumped on, and I happened to jump on. I think it was the day after it had finished, but it was like a couple of hours. It had gone, and this year I think it was 41 minutes. It filled up 300, so you can see how the momentum and there's that chart on the website too that shows how quicker and quicker it's getting each year. So I'm stoked, as we say, which I think we've taken from the Californians anyway, to be a part of it. But that's me.
And which blog are you in this year?
Oh yeah, so I'm in Fantastic Faction. Is that right? Fantastic Faction?
Fantasy Faction. Yeah.
Fantasy Faction.
You got some great competition in that. I mean, really, the entire thing is some great competition this year.
I was pretty worried. I saw Jill in there. I saw some. I went through them all. I'm like, I'm just going to be happy to be glued. Yeah.
And some devotion coming on here at midnight. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Laura, last but definitely not least, since Stephen was unable to make it today, I know if everybody sees him in the tab, Stephen will be here Monday, but for the author side, talking about what makes a good first chapter. For those who don't know Stephen, he has been leaving some very witty anonymous roasts of the SPFBO first lines, all in good fun on Twitter. But yes, so Laura, thank you for being here. How are you doing? We can't hear you. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Technology is always a thing on these, right? We can't hear you. Oh, there you are.
I came prepared just in case, because this mic, depending on muting, turns on and off.
Oh, I love the lights.
Thank you. I play video games, so I kind of have fun when they change themes. When I play Civilization and go to war, they turn all bright red.
That's awesome.
But
so when you read your books aloud, do they turn bright red too?
Yeah, just to match how much I'm getting embarrassed and everything. Yeah. That's my mood stone almost.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your book for SPFBO this year.
So I am in the Weatherwax group and following Esme, who has just been having fun teasing us, I swear, with all her tweets and posts. And she reads insanely fast. So when she actually mentioned she started reading mine the other day, I was panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, what does she think of it? And my husband kept telling me, calm down. She won't tell anything for a while. So can't change her opinion, just gotta wait and focus on other projects. The book I entered, though, was The Unchosen. It's my adult dark fantasy that focuses on kind of what would happen when the world turns against the God-chosen characters and how would they behave. So instead of the world uprising around the chosen one to take down the big bad, they're the big bad, I guess, in this situation. And we're gonna, not to spoil too much, you kind of see what will happen that way.
Super, super exciting. I haven't met a lot of the Weatherwax authors yet. I think I've only done one panel. So very excited to meet another person from that blog. And we all have such different fantasies, which makes it really interesting. That means if you're a reader and you're watching, there could be something for all of you here. So you can just go down to the description box and check out everybody's books in that link. I'm actually in Fantasy Book Critics blog this year with my debut, The Vow That Twisted Fate. And I'm highly intimidated, but also very excited to have my book in there with some of the names of people that I've read and known and respect a whole lot. So just really excited to meet everybody this year. So talking about SPFBO, since this is all of our first times entering SPFBO, as it's affectionately called, I'm being told. What was your feeling about the whirlwind turnaround? We've had people say that they were trying to get their stuff in as they were driving over to work, and they're like, pull over so I can get my stuff in. Like, where did you guys fall in the submission process this year?
I'll go first, I guess. I found out about the competition through Daniel Green on YouTube. And I kind of just set it in my calendar, and then I got up the second that the competition was started, and I had everything pre-set up on the computer, and then I just immediately entered it all because I didn't know much about it. And I figured, well, if I in rural Nova Scotia know about this competition, then lots of other people probably do too. And it only had 300 slots, so I was like, well, I better get there as soon as I possibly can and put all my stuff in.
That was a really good call. I heard about it from Dom's book blog and his Discord channel. I've just kind of been like following along with it for the past 2 years almost, and I decided to finally enter it. I kind of did the same thing, prepared the form the night before. Unfortunately, it's during my commute time, so I bribed my husband to wake up early to fill out the form for me. I was like, you just got to copy paste. That's all you got to do. So he did it for me, and I'm so glad he did because I did not get back until after it was closed. So that worked out really well.
You're like, I owe you.
I did. I was giving him such a big hugs. I brought home donuts later, and yeah, he was my little lifesaver there.
Wow. That's actually a really good tip, because somebody on an earlier panel was saying that their significant other was on the phone, like, don't forget, but they were driving. It's like, why don't you do it for me since you're there? You can just do it right then. Yeah. Oh, Chris, Jill, how about you guys? Jill, since you did sci-fi, did that make it easier to be prepped for
It made it a little bit easier. Like I said, they're completely different things. They're not run by the same person. They're kind of based off of each other, but I know there's not a lot of interaction there as far as how they're structured and things. So for SPFBO, the other one, the science fiction one, I knew that it was going to fill up quick. I actually found out about SPFBO through Janelle, formerly Garrett, now Phillips, who's with Book Nest. She's my critique partner, and she's been begging me for years, please put one of your books in. I'm like, I can't put Malfunction in. That's science fiction. That's not fair. She wanted me to put in her favorite series by me is The Raven Tree Society, which is a horror. She's like, look, it works. It's horror. Horror is fantasy. I'm like, it just feels unfair, partially because it's horror, partially because it's a short story format with 10,000 word episodic. But I had just put out Tahiri, so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and slip this in. I don't think it has a great chance, but I really am excited to be part of the community and try it out, and also get Janelle off my back. So I knew I was gonna go quick. Because I've heard from her, kind of the behind the scenes of some of the judges, but also I've just been watching it for years. I've been involved with several of the people who have had their books in before. The writer community is just amazing, and so once you get a few connections, all these kind of things just pop up. So yeah, I sent my stuff ahead of me to work, and I was at work early. At my desk early, and sent it in before the workday started, because I knew it would be during the commute otherwise. So it worked out perfectly. I think it had only been like 1 minute by the time I sent it submit. So I was like, unless they figure it doesn't count for some reason, I'm at least going to be in the running. So, the nerves started nice and early for that. But yeah, I was definitely shocked at how quickly it filled up, but not too shocked. Like I said, I've been watching this for a number of years, watching how intense the competition has gotten and how big names have started to get involved and get really excited about, the winners and even just the contestants. So I knew I had to move quick.
Yeah, that's great. And Chris, there's a time zone difference and a big one between there and here. How did that play in?
Yeah, I don't even really know whether it's now or not. I'm not sure, but it's very confusing. But look, it was an incredible experience for me applying, because when I launched my book, I had this full marketing strategy behind it and launch strategy, as many of us do, with the first 3 books in the series, which combine as a trilogy, and then it continues on after that. But the first 3 books are this overarching trilogy before the rest of their series, and they're all written and they just needed editing. But after I launched the first one, which I've entered, called Heretic, I had a bunch of life stuff get in the way. So life and work and time slippage and whatnot came into it, and I only really came back to the book because of the due date of this contest coming up, and to do the application. So I went on, so it was back in my mind. I had in my diary for the day before to just, look into it and go, what do you have to do? What's the application process? And God love Mark for putting up the questions in advance. So I was able to, like Willow and I think Jill and Laurie also did the same. I imagine you too, Katherine, had it all ready to go. But as I was putting in the info, I went back through. I sort of re-immersed myself in the story, and it was amazing. It's been over 12 months since I've done anything book related. It just got parked, and it was amazing how it was amazing just how it got picked. I just get straight into it. So again, it just consumed me again, and this enthusiasm for it. So I got it in on time. It was 1 minute past and I was finished. Didn't know if it had worked, but then you got the confirmation, right? So then you're like, okay, I guess it's there, right? And then I was like, wow, well, and then the momentum started again. So the writing momentum kicked in again, the feeling like, a writer again, an author, and then started reconnecting with my socials and my book and thinking about a plan. And it's done so much for me, even just reinvigorating me to get back into the writing again and notice people who are actually reading it and providing comments just because of this initiative it's invaluable to me. So just being a part of this and events such as yours, Katherine, I'm winning already.
I completely agree, not about my panels necessarily, and that's very kind of you to say, but really the community has made this worth doing in so many ways. I'm so honored to be a part of it and really connect with everybody, because I've only been published with since about 2 years ago. So I feel like a newbie in the middle of a lot of very experienced people's writing journeys. But speaking of writing and books, if we've got any people viewing who watch the other panels, they know what's coming. We have been doing little questions about the books. We've talked about main characters and villains and best friends and pets. And last night we talked about what is your villain's ordinary fear. And on today's panel, you guys get to talk about what is your main character's ordinary fear. So not their fear of losing to the villain or losing their big stakes, but something every day that they would be afraid of. If that's not in your book, you can sort of think about what would that be. It'd be like a little Easter egg, I guess, for the readers. And does that fear have a big impact on their story, or is it more just a nagging presence in the book?
I guess I could kind of start on this. It is a fear that kind of rose actually into book 2 is she is seen as the villain. So everyone is accusing her of being the big bad, but she wants to prove no, the actual villain of my book is the bad guys. I'm nothing like them. But as she kind of does more actions to save herself, to try to prove or even take care of herself, she does end up behaving just like one. So it's that kind of fear of trying to constantly fight that inner corruption and being trying to be a, to use the term, knight in shining armor. But hey, when you're busy hitting someone else, that person you're hitting is not going to see you as the knight in the white shining armor at all. They're going to see you as the dragon.
Exactly.
So that's constantly her fear. I used to have this scene in there, but it jumped around and I realized it was dragging out. But she also has a fear of snakes, just kind of like me, because yeah. Snakes kind of creep me out a little. So anytime they show up, I'm like, no. Even gardener snakes, I know they're cute, friendly. They eat little bugs. They don't do anything. I don't know why. They need legs. I'd feel better with a millipede. But that's about it.
Laura, yours sounds fascinating. What's your book called again?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
It's called The Unchosen.
I love the concept.
Thank you.
Brilliant. My book is
Thanks, Steven.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve.
Mine is in really, it's pretty much far-flung future, like almost incalculable how far ahead in the future it is. So much so that it's, civilizations built on top of civilizations by now. And my character is part of a time when, there's been such a purging of our world by the gods that physics is broken, and cracked, and through those cracks, magic has started to seep back in, but only a very minor sort of pedestrian type of magic that even the strongest magic users can only do the lamest of ordinary type magical practice. And my main character, the protagonist, Alex, has a pretty powerful magical awakening, and without going into it, but it's pretty much how the book starts. He wakes up in the middle of a crater that's pretty much leveled a district, and his this isn't really an ordinary fear. His fear is very similar to Laura's character, where his fear is that he is the villain. His real fear is that he's the villain, and I guess the reader over time through that initial trilogy will also start to question that as well. And it's not because of his intent. It's just because of his inevitable journey that's making him be the villain. Almost like he doesn't have a choice. And that's another thing. He's got this challenge between understanding the difference between what he can do versus out of free will versus what's in front of him that he must do. But he also is quite fearful of being alone. So he's pretty fearful of being alone, and yet he has been abandoned and separated from a lot of his family and his friends. And his fear is ultimately just being alone and dying alone. Yeah, it's a bit of a low point for the chat, but it's pretty exciting where it goes to with his journey.
Yeah, but the low points are what keep it real.
Yes,
Most of our fears are from a low point of some kind, I guess.
Yeah.
So for me, Tahiri is my main character, and I just wanted to shout out, by the way, because I didn't do it earlier. This gorgeous cover art is from Nate Philbrick, Caffeine Art on Instagram, and I know he had a few commissions left, but he's just a brilliant artist. But anyways, that aside, I think Tahiri's greatest fear, or normal fear, I'm sorry, would seem really small to most Western minds. So I'm going to categorize it as kind of a normal fear, and that is peer pressure. So this is set in a village setting, and the mindset in a village culture is quite different from in a Western culture, because in most Western cultures, not all of them, we're very individualistic. You know, we want to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and we want to make our own money. We want to bring home our own bread, and we want to be independent. Like, that's a goal that a lot of people have. The village mindset is very different, because it's you against, you know, the wilderness, and you have to have people by your side. You have to have people who will bring you food, who will care for you. If you can't take care of yourself, then you die. So there's this village mindset. So for Tahiri, you know, he's in this village. The main setting of the story is that because he was plucked up out of the sea as an infant, he wasn't born in the village. The people believe that he's a demigod, or a mermaid, a person, I should say, because definitely not a woman. And in their culture, they believe that these sea spirits, when they turn back to the sea, they will destroy everything that they leave behind, and they will become angry at the village and at the land, and they'll just destroy everything. So he is not allowed to enter the ocean. He's not allowed to touch the ocean, and because the ocean is so important to their culture, he's not allowed to cross over into manhood and pass the test into manhood, which is, again, a very much a village mindset. Most of the village cultures have that concept. And because of that, they view him as a child, and they won't allow him to get married. He can't get tattoos. He can't go out and fish for himself. He can't live in his own hut. He's still living with his mother. And he's not allowed to kind of pass the test and move onward and grow up. And there's nothing they would do to him. Like, they wouldn't murder him if he entered the ocean. They wouldn't kill him. They wouldn't stone him. They're not physically keeping him back from the ocean in any way. But because that culture is so important to him, he doesn't want to disappoint the people around him. So it's peer pressure entirely. It's not, there's no violence threatened against him if he decides to just, you know, go swim around and play with a fish, which is what he spends the majority of the book doing. But in the beginning of the book, you know, definitely there's that peer pressure, which, you know, as I said, in most Western cultures, that's considered kind of like a little bit of a nitpick, something rather wimpy. But in a village culture, that's quite different. And thank you so much, Steve. I really hope you enjoy it.
I love that you have a familiar that helps you write, by the way.
Yes, I have two. This is Pidge. The one we saw earlier with the white is Snape. And they are very nosy.
Jill, I have to say, with that description, it makes your cover just like give goosebumps. That is gorgeous, the way you describe that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Nate did an incredible job. I told him what I wanted, and he has a beautiful imagination, and I'm so excited. The only goal I had for this book, because this was entirely a mental health project, I said, Nate, I just want it to look pretty. And I gave him my Pinterest, and he did wonders. So I'm very
amazing. They nailed it.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. And WD.
Jill, your book sounds really fun. I really want to read it. I just want to put that out there. It kind of reminds me of Moana, actually, when you're talking about how he was in the sea. It reminds me of Maui from Moana a little bit, and that's one of my favorite movies, so I'm gonna definitely read your book. Right, my main character's favorite or fear. So my main character was a thief for a really long time, and he was raised on the streets for the past 10 years prior to the book starting. So his biggest fear is that he is scared of people abandoning him or betraying him. And the persona that he's created to kind of envelop this fear is that he believes that he deserves everything bad that's happened to him, and he blames himself for all those betrayals that he's had in the past. And he lashes out at others because he hates himself. I'm reading off notes right now because I actually had this already written down. He manipulates and steals from others because he thinks that that's the only way he can get what he needs. And he also has a unique dark power. he is connected to this darkness that is encompassing the realm for some reason, and he relies on that dark power that he has oftentimes instead of his friends or his mentor, and that's his immoral action, and that's what he needs to get over to become a better person. He needs to let go of that darkness.
That is right up my alley. I've got to say, I love books, not where the character's morally gray, even though I do like morally gray characters, but when there is a clear question of what is good and what is evil, and there's a little bit of both in all of us. Like, that's right up my alley. I'm very excited.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All of them sound really good. There's nothing that makes you want to read a book more than hearing like the weak points of the characters. You guys have all done amazing jobs.
Agreed.
Yeah, because it just makes them so real. You know, we can't all have Superman, and even Superman has a weakness. Yeah, I think in my book, Arla's main fear, the main character, is really ordinary fear. I'm not going to get into her big fear, but her ordinary fear is probably ruining all her clothes. Which seems a little shallow, but they're in a world where there's no technology and there's no evil, but she's always out adventuring and in the woods when she should be at home, and like, yeah. So their clothes are made from, you know, spun wool and everything, and she's always like, I'm down to my last 2 dresses. Just, yeah, I don't know.
That is a very valid fear.
The amount of time it takes to wash and get the clothes, yeah, no, that's a legit fear.
It's so well grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, see. So we've all got some really interesting sounding books this year. I'm so excited. I'm trying to read through all of them within the next year that I haven't already read, which is like 220 that I'm going to try to get through because I went in with about 80 that I'd already read. And I'm so excited. I'm taking this by blog. So actually I'm doing Fantasy Faction blogs first. So you guys will be the first one that I'm reading. Not picking in any specific order, but yeah, if you're watching and you would like to read their books again, you can grab them at the links in the description box. And you can also see all the books that are participating on Mark Lawrence's blog, which I highly recommend following. If you're an author and you want to do SPFBO next year, you can follow the blog and you can get updates on when there's going to be an opening date, and be prepared because maybe it'll go out in minutes next year. Like this year it went out in 40 something minutes, all 300 spots filled. And if you're a reader, you can keep up with all of our blogs on the different blogs that are listed in Mark's blog post that I shared, and click on each one and give them a follow. There's some great bloggers, and if you're a blogger, thank you so much for what you're doing. This is a lot of work and a lot of time, and we appreciate it. Thank you all for joining. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you, Katherine, for putting this together.
Yeah, thank
you very much.
Wonderful.
It's been my pleasure. There are 2 more panels coming on today and 2 or 3 tomorrow. So if you'd like to catch all of them, just subscribe to the channel. And there will be a big blitz at the end of this month too. So we're bringing a whole lot of indie authors on for everybody to meet. Thanks so much again, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. I definitely